Hello, today is Monday, June the 2nd, 2025. Hello, everybody, and I hope you're faring well in this white Worldbridger Wavespell. For those of you who are taking part in trialing my journal, I'm going to focus specifically on key things in that. If you would like to take part in this journal process, please do get in touch with me, and the contact link is down below in the information. So we've had a very deep, immersive with the Red Skywalker energy, and for me in particular, I am trying to catch up now, and I've only just finished the journal yesterday, which was on a powerful day of red self-existing moon, which was also a portal. So things are going very fast now because of the energy coming in. So we've got fire and air energy where we used to have earth and water. So we're now looking at blazing a trail in this 260-day cycle in Aries. And lots to share. So, where to start, really? So, let's have a bigger picture overview to begin with. Okay, so we began on the 25th of March here, and this was the initiator in Red Dragon, the number one. What the Great Mother is bringing us for our conscious evolution. So, the first 52 days is about awakening to what our survival issues are, what our ancestral patterns are, and how we are here as the human beings who are going to change that dynamic. And how we're going to change that dynamic is through healing. And that's the most important thing, healing. In terms of our amygdala, our fight, flight, or freeze, this whole thing, in my opinion, is about the emotional evolution. So you may be doing lots of things around health. You may have educated yourself into different behaviors. Remember, we live in a vibrational universe, and most of what we have been programmed to believe in our society so far is not true. That's the first thing. So we are running these old programs, and we have to get with the new program. And at the moment, this is very, very strong. So people have to do this inner work, this inner healing to change their vibration. This is not an intellectual thing. This is not a thing that you do with your head. And Aries energy is largely led by the head and thoughts, and can be very impulsive energy, can be very innocent, ignorant energy on one level, around just blazing a trail, going off, fighting wars. It's ruled by Mars, Aries, and there are lots of big planets that are working that dynamic now. So we had, first of all, Neptune went into Aries in the very first 13-day process. I think, yeah, that was on the 29th, which, so 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, yes, red serpent, red overtone serpent. So what we're mastering around relationship and our kundalini and our nervous system. Now, there's lots of things out there now about people with autism or Asperger's, or people who are empathetic, very sensitive, whatever label you want to choose, it's understanding what that creates for that individual human being. And there's lots being talked about in the health world, especially in the US at the moment, about what creates that. And so check that out, do your research on that. There's loads out there. What has created that dynamic for people? And there's so many young people now who are on the autism spectrum. And again, the question that I always ask about that is, what does this allow to happen when we have a particular way of being as a human being? So it brings new learning for everybody as to causality, as to outcome, as to positives, as to negatives, etc. So again, it's just fact finding and trying to find the information out and doing our due diligence, doing our due diligence for ourselves to try and get to the truth. This is what Gemini energy is all about, and this is the sun that we're in at the moment. So when you look to correct an overactive fight, flight, emotional mind mechanism, there are lots of different resets out there. So, for example, you can do a hypothalamus reset, which is often accessible through a chiropractor, for example, who will push particular points on the body. And again, there's lots of different versions of this, different opinions around this. There are ways to do body work to release any tension in the vagus nerve. So there's lots of roads to Rome on this. And the way that I use is emotional freedom technique, because this raises conscious awareness. So you can have somebody else reset you. You can reset yourself. So one example of this is using these points as well. Again, check it out for yourself. Have a look on YouTube. There's loads and loads of things out there, loads of resources. The difference with EFT, emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, is you get to know what the triggers are. If you do this to a deep level, you will know what has created trauma for you. And then you can clear it, and then you can heal it, and then you can start to do different behaviors with this conscious awareness. And this is really, really important for people who are doing the Skywalker process, because you want to be aware of what has created this trauma for you. We all have trauma in this world today, whether it's big or small. In my experience of working with a lot of people since 2007, people often think that they don't have any trauma because they haven't got a huge story. And that is not true. Okay, so remember, most of the trauma that we have initially is in childhood. And this can be very simple around misunderstandings, around an adult with power over that child, just shouting at them, for example. That can create trauma and feeling unsafe. And then what happens is the universe keeps bringing these situations like a magnet. And the way that I see this is, the problem is the solution. This is the evolution that we're going through. We're learning and we're dealing with facing these patterns over and over again, because this is how astrology works. This is how the universe works. These patterns come around, and if we don't heal them, they get bigger until we do face them. So we're coming in for a reality check right now, if that makes sense. So check out Emotional Freedom Technique if you haven't checked it out already. It's extremely empowering, and you can learn to do it for yourself. You can get help with somebody who has more skill and more experience to help you. Ultimately, though, I love it because it means when I work with people, they get homework and they get to build their skill because ideally in future they won't need me. And that's where we all need to be. We don't want to be in a need state. We don't want to be in a codependent state. We want to be in interdependent co-creation, which again, this is what Gemini energy is all about. It's about how we raise our conscious awareness, how we let go of things that are no longer serving us. And that often means relationships, it often means environments, ways of doing things have to change. So we became very aware of this. And in each of these 52-day processes, we have 4 13-day DNA processes. And each one builds on the next. So once you start doing this process, you are naturally going to transcend your experience because you're going to become intellectually aware. And if you're doing the healing process, you're going to raise your vibration and you're going to change your experience because you will change the inside, the outside will change. And the more that you are doing this, the more you are changing the world. And so it's, an amazing win-win for everybody. So once we finish this 52-day process, we go on to the next 52-day process. So we've been awakened. We now know what we're going to be working with this whole 260 days. And then we go into down Skywalker. Here we go, the 13th sign. So this is the human being who's ready to take action because that's the planet Skywalker. And check out my Red Skywalker video if you haven't already. This is especially pertinent to me because this is when I was initiated into this 14 years ago. My first workshop, and I got my first calendar at that point. I didn't know that then. I didn't know any of that. And here we go. So we're in white. So what's happening now is we are now in the 52-day process of being the Skywalker. And the first 13 days, which began on the 16th of May, was a huge process. In my opinion, the biggest process because it has 3 clear signs in it. And in the journal, I have asked questions. So I try to structure these journals because people are on different levels of awareness. I try and ask questions so people will start researching themselves and start looking for the answers. So again, when you cross-reference this and you start to look at your own 13-year cycles, this is how this tool gives you a cosmic nudge and says, okay, this is what you were doing back then. So you can work with your past, you can work with other people's pasts, your ancestors' pasts, and you can also work with your future. And of course, if you heal your past, you become more present because you're not keep getting triggered and dragged into the past again to repeat a story. And therefore, you can have more joy and peace in your life. And the future that you're going to create is going to be very different. So, hey, it's a no-brainer. And this, although it looks simple in a way, as you can see the DNA thread, it is mind-blowing. It is unbelievable what information it gives you. And of course, it's a synchronizer. So it's getting us back to natural time. Very, very important that we align with the universe because we've been taken out of that natural alignment for thousands of years with a structure of an imbalance of power. Now is a time where that's coming back into balance and the sacred feminine is returning. So, again, the more we heal, the more we change our destiny. And this is how we birth the new earth through each one of us. That's what the Skywalker energy is. The glyph is, comes through us, creates heaven on earth. For me, with the Skywalker, it really is very similar to the Gemini glyph in astrology. And so it is, for me, how we go to that higher level of consciousness. And that's what Gemini is all about. So now is the time where we're really focusing on that. So we're on day 5 today of the next wave spell, which is Worldbridger. And I've entitled the journal Worldmaker because that's what we do. And it's remembering our power, it's remembering our embodiment of the universe in whatever language you want to use. So we're the embodiment of God and Goddess, and the Goddess returning to her balance of power. So 2nd of June, 1st of June, 31st of May, 30th of May, 29th of May, okay, is when it began. And White Worldbridger is also Mars, so we're taking action. So again, just think back to what was initiating for you back then. And if you have a copy of the journal and you want to print it off, or another alternative, I know it's going to use a lot of ink because I've put some very pretty pictures in there. So another thing that you can do is you could just print it off black and white, or you could create your own plain paper journal or just papers and use those. In future, this is going to be something printed that you can buy and keep, because this is going to be your manual for yourself that you're going to refer back to so you can build on your personal path and consciousness. Okay, so this was initiated in Gemini, as I said, so we're raising conscious awareness. And today we are on day 5, which is white dog, white overtone dog, and the planet is Mercury. So again, you can look at current transits, you can put the astrology on there, you can look at your astrology and where your Mercury is and where your Mars is. And so yesterday, as I said, is portal day. So what was happening for you yesterday is very significant as well. Any of the moon signs that come up in any 13-day process connects us to a time period as well. So red self-existing moon is a 28-day pattern, and the 13 moon cycle begins on the same time every year. So we have the 260-day spiral, which is continuous, and each one is initiated in a particular astrology and in a particular moon cycle as well. And remember, the moon cycle is about our emotional story. It's about our mother's emotional story, our grandmother's emotional story, and how we are learning to heal that and clear that so we can be authentic and we can be the beacon of light. And often what I find is how this works is, for me personally, this is my grandmother's story on my mum's side. And just learning this. She is a red crystal skywalker. So just learning about this is mind blowing, and magical things are happening right now to really expand that conscious awareness. And every day I just get different insights using the journal and using this system, and especially tapping, because whoever I'm tapping with, they are another me. And in Lakesh, once we become very aware of our own personal story, and then we start to see other people in our holograph who have the same story in a different, slightly different version. And this just again raises our conscious awareness that we're in this giant mystery school, and we can take a different view of what is happening to us, and also feel empowered, because the more we heal, the more that we change our circumstances and we start to trust the process. So, again, this synchronizer of the Zolkin, putting things in the right order and realizing that all energy is a spiral, and it shows us the dynamic of that, and that there is a universal plan, even though things may seem dark and we have to go through dark stories because our ancestors have gone through dark stories. And so it's not going to just be an instant reset. We have to reset it. Does that make sense? Okay, so what is White Overtone Dog? Whenever we get to day 5, we are doing a mastery process. And of course, in each wave spell, there is a different energy there. We repeat all of the 20 Mayan signs every 20 days with a slightly different energy, with a different tone. And in 40 days, we go to the next level in terms of the linear. So again, we are relearning this energy, and we can pinpoint exact times and events in our life, and then we can actually raise our own conscious awareness and start to really focus on being proactive as well. So doing some healing every day on the amygdala and coming into peace. Remember, this 52-day process of Red Skywalker is about creating heaven on earth through us. And realizing that if we want peace, we have to be peace. Peace begins with me. This means we have to mature as a human being, stop doing things that create drama, and that involves hurting ourselves by what we put into our bodies, by making sure our environments are safe, and everything in that environment is safe and thriving, so other beings on the planet. We live in an Eden, and human being immature actions have created a lot of trauma on the planet. And it's remembering that Gaia is a living, conscious being that we come from. So we're a spiritual being in a Gaia made body. And this Gaia body becomes animated with this consciousness, with this electricity. And wherever we have trauma events, the electricity, the chi, the prana, the life force gets blocked. And we see the manifestation of that in our body. And so we have to look at the bigger picture and what sets our hearts on fire, what we love, what we're passionate about. If we're living a life of safety, this life will not create thriving for us. And often we will get ill because our mind is telling us that we have to do these safety things. And we've inherited that from our ancestors. We have to be brave now and do what we love, connect to what we're passionate about, what we came here to do at this time, and start creating that. And don't lose sight of that. Whenever our body is showing us that something is not in alignment with this truth, that is where the healing begins. Because the truth is, we have every resource on planet Earth now to create a wonderful life when these are used in balance and when we can really shine and feel safe and loved and cared for. And all of this begins within. So we are working with, let's have a look at the energies of today. So first of all, we have now gone into crystal moon. So during Skywalker, we had been in spectral moon. And so over that 28-day period, we had been letting go of things. And now we're getting clear about that. So to go back to red self-existing moon, this is a time where we're on moon 4, basically. So as I said earlier, the Mayan New Year and the 13 moon cycle begin on the 26th of July every year, regardless of the 260-day cycle. They are the same. So when you're born, you will have a Mayan moon, and that's very important. That will have its own wave spell as well, and that's a whole different expansion that you can look at. Red self-existing moon is around Scorpio time. And again, if you Google this, there are resources out there that will give you the exact dates. 26th of July is Leo energy. That's when the calendar begins. That's when the Mayan New Year begins. It's all about the heart. It's all about the spirit. And this is also solar as well, the number 9. How we go to the next level because we are healing our heart and creating new worlds because of that. And once you really start to understand this process on a deeper level, it's amazing because you realize that you really can create the life that you want if you're willing to do the work as the Skywalker. And that involves healing as much as you possibly can every day. So working with the triggers every day, working with what's in your holograph, working with what's in your world. That is really important. Because we can't change anybody else's dynamic. We're in this illusion that we can. And, you know, that we can buy stuff and we can create, build things. Yeah, of course we can do that. But we're not going to change the outcome. We're not going to create heaven on earth simply by using things outside of ourselves. And we often just create more of the same. And we don't have that conscious awareness. So we're often creating unconsciously in this life to begin with. Today we are on the 2nd of June, as I said. We've got the moon 5 degrees of Virgo here in the East Coast. So that's interesting as well, because that's the number 5, matching that white dog energy, healing our ancestral patterns. And I had somebody actually live with me at one time who had this energy. And that was challenging. That was challenging. That was the energy that she brought, which really helped me define boundaries and understand more. Everybody is a great teacher. And living in Glastonbury and renting out rooms, that was a big, big learning curve for me, very challenging at times. We've got the sun at 12 degrees of Gemini. So again, we're getting clear, number 12, crystal clear. We've got Mercury at 16 degrees of Gemini right now. And so that relates to yellow warrior as well. Sun again, 12, yellow human. You can cross-reference all of these. We've got Venus in Aries at 26 degrees, and we've got Mars in Leo at 21 degrees. So again, you can look at what's in your chart and how this is illuminating your energy right now. So for me, I have Mercury at 20 degrees of Leo. And words of love is the way that I see that. Jupiter's at 28 degrees of Gemini. Again, that's close to my Jupiter at 25. And Saturn at 0 degrees. So Saturn went in on, look, I don't remember all these dates. I know it was Saturn Day. We had the new moon on the 27th at 6 degrees of Gemini. 24th of May, Saturn went into Aries. And so this is called like the world axis point. It's like a complete reset, a new beginning. We've got Neptune's now at 1 degrees, having gone in at 0 degrees on the 29th of March. So it initiated this. And we've got Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius right now. We've got Chiron at 25 degrees of Aries. So again, this is hitting my sun and hitting my Jupiter, raising my consciousness about my wounding and how I'm going to master that through communication. So that's what my intention is today, is to communicate my journey and how I have changed my life massively and hopefully changed many other people's lives by co-creating with them and raising their awareness with emotional freedom technique. Okay, so I'm just going to share the cards today I selected. So we've got Blue Eagle. Who am I as a planetary server? And again, this is very personal to me. My son is a blue magnetic eagle. He's an Aries. He changed my life, being born in my white cycle, which is white wind. And today I am on year 5 of that. So again, if you know your 13-year cycles, you can cross correlate these and see with whole different conscious awareness about what's playing out in your world today. And once you really get into this groove, there's no unseeing it, you know? It is the matrix revealed. So Blue Eagle is the 15th Mayan sign, and it is about being a planetary server, rising up, seeing your bigger picture, and transforming it. So sometimes the mind just focuses, you know, on snippets, really small bits, and we want to expand that. And again, I see this as my Aquarius rising. I want to look at the bigger picture. I don't want to just be stuck in the gully thinking, oh, wow, I can't get out of here. I'm stuck in this birthing hole. It's very intense and it's dark. But when I come up and go out and I fly high and I look back over my path and I look into my future, and there's lots of ways you can do this. I use timelining for this to take yourself out of your situation and look at your life and look at before life, after life, your ancestors' lives, and get some context, rather than just getting stuck in that monkey mind. Okay, so Queen of Cups. For me, sovereignty over your emotions. Two of Swords, peace. What mindsets, what thoughts create peace? Anything where I don't feel peaceful, I want to examine that thought and see where it came from. How did I create that thought? Who created it for me? Because often it's ancestral programming or cultural programming, and we can let it go. Change. Very much on the cards for me at the moment, looking at how I create change in my world. Again, if you want to look any of these up, they are hugely deep meanings. You can see the yin and yang there, the Ouroboros. This is a constant in our lives. And that's also showing Jupiter on there, which I've just talked about. My Jupiter being in Gemini, my parents being Geminis. What were their thoughts and beliefs that serve me? Prince of Swords, masculine energy, youthful energy. Ten of Cups, where are my cups full? What makes me happy? What makes me feel full of joy? So remember, this process is happening over and over again. We don't stay in the same place our whole lives. We're not meant to. And this is a very key card as well. So this is number 4, and you can relate this to the 4th mind sign, yellow seed, Aries. A lot of information on that card. The Emperor, and the Emperor in acupuncture is the heart. Without the heart, we do not live. We die very quickly when the heart stops. And it's not allowing ourselves to be completely ruled by immature heart impulses, the ego that wants what it wants when it wants it and is not mature. Wisdom is taking time to collect the facts before blazing the trail. And often that can feel difficult if we're triggered, if we don't feel safe. But if we start to focus on what doesn't feel safe and tap on it and understand where the root of that is and then let it go, remember, we always have the answers. So I'm just going to do a quick whiz through of the journal. So use the journal every day. Usually what I do is I start off with some key questions to focus on setting your intention. So again, think back to 5 days ago and what was happening for you then. And again, whatever level you want to work at, if you want to put the astrology in there, that's always good. And it's good to look back on as well. What was heaven in the last 13 days in the Skywalker, and what was hell? So again, get really specific on these things, because if you're going to use emotional freedom technique, this can be a great starting point. And emotional freedom technique doesn't do global. You know, you've got to drill down and get really specific on what the trigger is. And remember, excuse me, that we're building all the time. White that we're in now is the refining. So again, for me personally, today is the year 2000. And so I became a mum in 1995, right at the end of Red Earth for me. And that woke me up to a whole new beginning of unconditional love around having my son, but also a big process around my society, the medical model, my relationships, and how I wanted to create heaven on earth for my child. And then my daughter came in 1998. And so she was born into this cycle, because this cycle for me began in 1996. So today I am reliving the year 2000. Now, just if you're around then, just think back to what was happening then. And what was happening then was 1999, you know, the famous Prince song. Um, there was this whole thing that was out there about how unsafe it was going to be going into the year 2000, which is really bizarre if you think about it now. It was like being in the dark ages or something. They all thought, or they sent out a message that computers may not work, so our whole society may collapse because it wouldn't recognize going into 2000. None of which happened. And I remember that New Year's Eve. I remember it very distinctly because a lot was happening in my life back then, and it wasn't good, despite the fact of having a lot of seemingly nice things. In 2001, of course, we had the huge event, and we're coming up to 2028. That's a very significant cycle. So we need to be aware of that. And so 2001 on a personal level was very significant for me as well, not in a good way. The start of really awakening, actually. And again, it's remembering that we have to go through this process to understand it. It's why we're here. We're not going to have an easy ride at this time on planet Earth. We've got to go through these experiences to really understand what created them, how they felt, and how we are going to change that personally. So I put questions in there as well about the clear sign days of red overtone earth, white rhythmic mirror, and yellow galactic sun. So if you know your personal cycles, you will know how they tie in. That they are so powerful, and I had extremely difficult times, let's put it that way, but so much valuable learning. And questions like, what's my white tribe? What is my 13-year cycle in white? Is it past, present, or future? And more information about that. So with the Worldbridger, we are letting go of old worlds. And again, if you look at Saturn in Aries and you look at past cycles, it was 1937, April the 25th. Also January the 14th, 1938, September 22nd, 1939. Look at what happened on planet Earth then. March the 3rd, 1967, April the 7th, 1996, October the 25th, 1988. Now, the 1939 and the 1998, that should be, retrograde, going back over old ground, new beginnings. And that's when my daughter was born at that time. So she has Saturn in Aries retrograde. So we've got Saturn in Aries, May the 24th. It goes retrograde in Pisces on September the 1st. So we've got until September the 1st in this initiation. It's going to go back into Pisces. So again, boundaries, Christ consciousness, addictions, whatever way you want to see that in September, which is going to be Virgo energy. And then that will stay there in that retrograde position until February the 13th, 2026. And then it goes back into Aries. And so, again, if you look back at these times, what was happening to you? And it could be that you have Saturn in Aries. This is really important to know. Structure of new beginnings. Start to see your whole Saturnian structure in a whole new light. And we're building to a full moon in Sagittarius in this wave spell. So again, what we have decided we want to manifest with the new moon in Gemini, it's going to be manifested in the shorter term in Sagittarius with the full moon in Gemini in 6 months' time. And Sagittarius is the 9th astrological sign. It's the gateway. It's where new stars are born. Where is it in your chart? That is really important. Where are you going to be at that time? Are you planning a move? Are you planning a shift? Remember that the universe will create pathways for us that match up to where we are in our mystery school learning. And so often, if you are doing a lot of healing work, if you're doing a lot of rewiring, then things will change, things will be dynamic, because then you've got to be somewhere on the land or somewhere, it could be that you're working online, that's another way of doing it. You need to connect to the people that you need to connect to, and they need to be on a similar vibe to you. And the more that you heal and clear, the more that your tribe is going to expand, your soul tribe of people who are wanting that same dynamic. And you just have to let go of trying to take people with you, and let go of trying to figure stuff out, and just trust the process. So you'll start to recognize similar situations and you just go with it, because the universe has a different plan to our mind and different ways to create outcomes for us as well. So this whole process takes us through to day number 9, which is White Solar Wizard. So we're going to go through that gateway of empowerment to the next level if we're doing this work. And we end up on day 13, white cosmic mirror. So, how has our holograph changed? Because we've changed. I hope that gives further guidance if you're using the journal, and maybe you're using your own system as well. Whatever works for you, whatever level that you're at. I am getting back into teaching emotional freedom technique now to my community. It's so important. So if you live locally to me in Naples, Florida, and you would like to take part in a small group, it's going to be an initiating day of what is emotional freedom technique, how does it work, and it's going to be very practical. We're going to be working together as a group and in pairs. So it's going to be dynamic, and we are going to create change. So please get in touch if you'd like to know more, and we'll co-create. I hope you have an amazing world, Bridger, and that your life is feeling more heaven than hell. This is who we are as planetary servers now. Using these tools to birth the new earth, we are the midwives. Lots of love. See you soon.